being here as we recognize and celebrate the life of our father, Frank Klimowski, who has been so much a part of all of our lives. We want to thank everybody for being here today, family, relatives, and friends. Thank you so much for being part of our celebration of life of Frank Klimowski. My wife Jennifer and I attend Central Presbyterian Church, and we have asked our pastor, the Reverend Wallace of Bubar, to open our meeting with a moment of prayer.
Let's join together now in a spirit of prayer. Eternal God, we come before you today with so many different emotions in our hearts. 2 weeks ago, we had to say goodbye to Frank. We all feel the loss of someone we knew and loved and cared for in some way. And we ask you to look with compassion on all those whose lives seem emptier as a result. But even in the midst of sorrow, though, we pause here this morning to be grateful. Grateful for Frank's life, grateful for all that he meant to us, grateful for the fact that our lives were blessed and enriched because of his life. And so give us joy, give us gratitude, give us laughter even at recalling his life today. And give us perspective on our own lives, O God. We know that our days are like the grass. We grow and flourish, but then we wither and fade. You alone are from everlasting to everlasting. And so we turn to you, O God, for guidance, for support, for hope. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. As Kevin said, I am Wallace Bubar. I'm pastor just down the street from here at Central Presbyterian Church, where Kevin and Jennifer are members. I'm pleased to be here with you today as you come together to celebrate Frank's life. On behalf of the church, I want to extend my deepest sympathies to all of you in your loss. I suspect probably of all of the people here today, I knew Frank the shortest period of time. I just came to Des Moines about 2 years ago and made it a point, though, from time to time to go over to Senior Suites to pay him a visit. But of course, I never knew Frank as the strong and robust, vibrant man that you knew him as. We had brief conversations on my visits. I noticed he was often wearing Iowa State apparel, and that would often lead into a conversation. I noticed his eyes always seemed to brighten just a little bit whenever I mentioned Iowa State. But it was really only sitting down a couple of weeks ago with Kevin and with Steve, hearing some of their stories, as well as being here today, seeing the photographs, hearing some of you share your stories, that I got a fuller picture of who Frank was and what he was all about. 95 years and all. What a remarkable life he led. I heard stories about him growing up in Chicago in the Polish community on the west side of town, being raised Roman Catholic, educated by the nuns there, who I'm told left something of an impression on him. I heard about him leaving high school early, going out west, joining the Civilian Conservation Corps during the Great Depression, serving in the Navy during World War II, and coming back to college at Iowa State. I heard about an amazing career that had him involved in the development of radar and computers and the space program. And of course, I heard about his love of his home out in California. But I think by far the most moving thing I heard Steve and Kevin tell me about was a reunion that took place just about a year ago, I guess it was. They showed me a video of him surrounded by his children. Many of you, I think, were there perhaps that day. And you could just see him beaming in your presence. It was a picture of love that day. And there's a lot of love here in this room today, I can tell just by looking around at you all. And I look forward to hearing some of you share your memories and your stories about Frank here in just a moment. In closing, there's a psalm in the Bible that seems fitting for a day like today, and fitting for a man like Frank, who was in the Navy, who traveled extensively all over the world. It's a psalm that speaks of God's presence wherever we are, wherever we find ourselves, even at the farthest limits of the sea, it says. So I invite you now to hear these words from Psalm 139. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in, behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit, O Lord? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths of the earth, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light around me become night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
At 9:45 p.m., May 8, 2017, the temperature of planet Earth got a little cooler. That's when Dad passed from this life to the next. But while he was here in our world, the world was a much warmer place. Dad's youth was during the Great Depression. I like to brag about my dad. I do it all the time. And so I'm going to do a little bit now, too, if you don't mind. He left home at the age of 15, dropping out of high school and joining the Civilian Conservation Corps. This would have been in the mid-30s. According to him, he left because there would be just one less mouth to feed at home. So always compassion, even at the age of 15. Where I would guess there were probably at least 7 at home still, including his parents. In doing some modest research, by the way, I discovered that Dad must have had a special dispensation from the CCC because they had a minimum age of 18 for enlistment. Now there's a young man with a lot of grit. I don't know what kind of student he was in the Chicago public schools, but he sure proved himself in the CCC. There are pictures of him, and if you've looked at some of these, you've seen some of them. Spraying DDT to get rid of locusts in the Nevada desert, living in rustic barracks, and later on dragging chain for the surveying crew, and then drafting maps in an office in Reno. That picture is out there. So he obviously worked his way up the chain of command there, if you will. He surveyed land around Bakersfield, California, that he could have bought very cheap. And I kind of forget the exact number, but it was something like 15 to 20 cents an acre he could have picked it up for in the 30s. And he was making about $1 or $1.25 a week, so he could have afforded it. But he was kicking himself for not buying it because just a few years later they discovered oil and the price skyrocketed. Now that gave him the real image of buy land, and they're not making any more of it. So that gave him a vision to invest in land. Dad served in the Navy during World War II, and he was installing the top secret at the time radar in airplanes and ships. He got his engineering degree from Iowa State University, and while there helped build one of the first computers. It was probably half as big as this room. It was, we have a picture of it. It's amazing. Bill Schneider was the president of Stavitt Engineering. There's probably nobody here that knows Bill Schneider now. He died several years ago now. But he was the president of Stavitt Engineering, and he sought out Dad at Iowa State to join his company. They built airplanes and hired him as soon as he graduated. Now, I know Bill Schneider because Dad and Bill became very good friends, and I lived with Bill Schneider my first year in New York. Dad arranged sort of a soft landing into the big city, if you will. I lived outside of New York, but I lived with a former president of what turned out to be Lockheed. I mean, Lockheed bought Stavitt out in 1959. In any case, Bill loved my dad. He said he was always an energetic worker and always very positive. And of course, you guys can all say, of course he was. That's how we knew him. And a very hard worker. We all know that, I mean, we're all of the Sibs are hard workers, and we got it from Dad. There's no question about it. My first memories of Dad were when we were living in Dayton, Ohio. And this would have been 1954 or 55. I remember Dad taking me by the hand and walking to the end of the street to a park to watch the big boys play baseball. He would lift me up on his shoulders so I could see above the crowd, and there's a picture, if you've looked at the pictures, there's a picture of me on his shoulders right in that same park. And there's a picture of Carol there too. Dad adored his children right from the beginning. So that's one of my first memories of Dad. It was way back when I was probably about 3 years old. His first land investment that I remember was the orange grove in Anaheim. Do you guys remember the orange grove, some of you? Okay. We would bring home huge oranges and lemons. I mean, you don't see these in stores. They're just enormous lemons and oranges. This is from the Los Angeles area, Anaheim area. And do you remember on the way home, we would stop at the old fishing hole? You remember the old fishing hole? They stocked trout in these things, and we would catch fish and we would eat them that night. While we were in the car, Dad would, he just loved being with us. It was wonderful. He would sing a tune, probably others, but I remember one that went, roaming in the gloaming on the bonny banks of Clyde, roaming in the gloaming with my laddies by my side. Or if Carol was there, he would say, with my lassie by my side. Do you remember that? Except that it was kind of hard to understand it because Dad couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. He couldn't, and probably every 2 notes he changed keys or something. But it was wonderful because it was the joy of being with his kids that just exuded there while he's driving down the road. Yes. When we moved to Northern California, Dad's first project was building his dream house on Davis Avenue, which he did. And then he started investing in land, and in 1963 he bought the 40 acres he lovingly called his South 40. He lived there the last 40 years of his life, and just getting it better, and Tom certainly helped him maintain the roads and all that stuff. He just loved that land up there. And later, several of you guys, I was away at college, but you guys helped him build his house there, which he did by hand. Dad was kind of a self-made man. He did all that stuff. Excuse me. Now, it was either a joke or Dad's odd sense of fashion. When he wore this hat at Tom's wedding. But you gave it to him. Oh, no kidding.
Oh my God.
Well, anyways. Yeah, Dad was not a fashion plate. Let's put it that way. So he wore this, and we gave him a hard time about it. It looked a little weird, Dad, but he would not let go of his hat. I'm sorry. As you know, Dad had a great sense of humor. There was always a chuckle just about to come out. He was always ready. The last real off-the-cuff witticism I heard from him, at least that I remember, it was several years ago. He was still living on his property, and I was driving him out his dirt road just to go out for dinner or lunch or something, I forget. And there was a tree that was sort of partly in the road. We used to have trees falling in that road. They're falling in there right now. I mean, it just happens. And so I stopped the car, I hopped out, I ran down just to push it over the edge, seeing if I could, and I couldn't budge this thing. It looked like it was right on the edge and should just topple over, but I couldn't budge it. So I get back in the car, I say, sorry, Dad, I couldn't budge it. He says, Steve, it's that cuss factor. You ain't got it. I said, that, Dad? It's that cuss factor, Steve. You ain't got it. So, the last time I saw Dad was for about 30 minutes, almost exactly a month ago, on April 23rd. He was sitting in his favorite chair at the nursing home. Now, this is late in the afternoon, and usually when I saw him there, he was asleep, usually, and because he was only lively during the mornings. But this time he was wide awake, and I thought, oh, this is good. I started talking to him. I showed him, we had just been out to his property. We've been, the trustees of which I'm one, have been checking up on it, maintaining it. And so we were out there looking at it and cleaning things up, and had just gotten back. So I showed him pictures of his property. I showed him how well his spring, which he labored over. Remember, this is California. There's not much water up there in the Santa Cruz Mountains. But he labored over this spring, and I showed him how well it was running, how well it weathered all the storms that it had this last winter, and the water was flowing like mad. I showed him, various, pictures, and he just came alive. And in fact, he started talking. Now, I can only understand about 5% of the word. You got to remember, Dad's pretty demented at this point, but he started talking, and it was wonderful, because you could hear the chuckle, you could hear the laughs as if he was telling me jokes, but it was like he was doing it in a foreign language or something. But it was wonderful because there was his spirit. And one thing he did was, sitting in that room, there was one whole wall that was windows. It was a beautiful sunny afternoon. And he looked outside as if to say, isn't it a beautiful day? Here was a guy, even in those circumstances, the circumstances of being confined, of really losing most of his individualism. I mean, this is a rugged individualist. That was at peace. He was at peace with looking at the sky, and I left him a few minutes later. I kissed him goodbye. And that's what I saw. There was acceptance. He was at peace. He was truly at peace. And I thought, boy, I hope I can have a peace like that sometime. Now, I started this little talk saying that the planet was a little colder since Dad's passing. And I think that's true, certainly for me. But when I reflect on the positive influence Dad had on most of you here today, when I think about how his influence has warmed our lives, if we continue to spread the warmth and the love that Dad so freely gave to us, I can only conclude that the world is in fact a much warmer place. Because Dad was in our lives. And we can rejoice because we've had the privilege of knowing him. And here's a little video of Dad at the 1992 reunion.
This is to read my notes. Well, that's not why I'm wearing glasses. I know what I do. You know, I pay my taxes. I'm a Republican. And I'm a patriarch. And what the hell is a patriarch? And Ronnie tells me it's a senior member of the family. And I thought that patriarch was the horse that ran second in the 1937 Kentucky Derby. There's been a lot of controversy here ever since we arrived. The controversy has to do with who does Andrea look like? What does Andrea have, you know, that distinguishes her or identifies her with another member of the family? And I've pondered this since I've been here. And I've come to the conclusion, and I will not yield on this, she has my ears. You know, this is what they say about family values. And I think that family values were invented by each of you, you know, before the politicians got hold of it. You know, look at the faces. All I can see is family value. Generations, sons and daughters, grandmothers, aunts and uncles, and value all over the place. It's receiving relative way. At the last reunion, I made quite a bit of the very profound wisdom that I encountered in my life. And that had to do with perhaps what is the most important product of my experience. And at the time I said that the most important product of my experience was that you are the product of your thoughts. And that means that as you thought as an infant, and as you thought as a youngster, as a toddler, as you thought in school, the thinking you did all through your life has molded you as an architect to mold a building. And you are what you've been building, each of yourselves, all your lives. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing, because your sons and daughters will encounter your thoughts, and their thoughts will reflect yours. And all we can look forward to is a great, great, wonderful future for this family.
Yay!
In my sort of looked at how things go. You have to look at things in totality. And I sort of said, I've come to a conclusion that an active person in a professional role encounters about 25,000 people in their lives. And of these 25,000 people, the encounter might have been, hello, how's the weather? And give me a six-pack of beer. Use $5.95. And then about 2,500 people you'll have active conversations with. Perhaps half hour, an hour. And then when you get to be my age, you'll remember perhaps 250 of these people and the conversations that you had with these people. And then, when you focus your memories in your last years, you'll remember 25. But then, when the crunch comes, and the rubber meets the road, so to speak, the number comes down to 10. And these 10 people are the people that you can really rely on, when things are tough. And in my experience, half of these people are members of your family. So I say, we're here for a family reunion. You can learn from each other. We come from different parts of the country, and we've all assembled here, and we all have experiences, and we can certainly learn from each other, particularly from the old timers, because the old timers have been through it, and they've taken bruises and bumps and lumps, and they have guidelines and things that the younger people will certainly benefit by. So there's a gold mine out there. Talk to the old timers. And as you're here, recognize your genetic commonalities. And they're all good. I'm proud of each one of these commonalities. Interact and relate. Exercise your memories. Enjoy yourselves. Seek out that special someone and say that special something, because time goes by. And I've got one final comment. I don't want any aunts and uncles around here spoiling my grandchildren.
This is really an opportunity for other family members who would like to share to do so. We know that some of you have asked for a moment or two. I was one, and I'm just going to share a few things here. First, I didn't realize how eloquent he is. How you forget. How you forget. But I learned something from Steve. I realized where I got my musical talents from. My father. But for me, I think of really like having 3 major episodes with Dad. I mean, I had the Los Gatos dad, and that's the dad. Earliest memories looking out, on the backyard of our house. And how proud Dad was of all that. And then there's the South 40 dad that I had, where I learned the appreciation of the outdoors, the need for hard work, even if you don't want to. Even if you don't want to split all those logs, you don't want to stack all that wood, you do it because it's part of the job. And I appreciate him teaching me that. Lots of incredible memories on that South 40. I really appreciate those moments, of the hard work, of that kind of thing, but punctuated by so much family joy and memories. With my brothers and sisters. It's because of the dad doing it. And mom, of course. But probably what I'm most thankful for is something Dad said in the video. And that is having those people you can rely on. And for me, it's my 7 brothers and sisters. Thank you for being part of my life.
Come on up.
Dad left us so much. One of the treasures is some of his notes that he accumulated over years. Little notes and thoughts, little proverbs that he made up. And I just wanted to share with you a couple of these. By the way, Dad is so proud of you. One of my best memories, and I'll just share, that when I would get together with Dad, he would talk so much about you, Steve, about Tom, about Kevin, Rondell, Carol, Janelle, Bob. All of his kids, he was so proud of, and you are his legacy. And what a beautiful legacy that is. One of his notes, Dad reminds himself that one man's mountain is his family. And indeed, his mountain was his family. To remind us of the gravity of happiness, and to never forget to make your own sunshine. He had a sense of humor, to where he defined a cat as a future tennis racket which is walking on 4 legs. It's right here, guys. Dad also captured his memories. And here's the fall foliage trip from October of 1985, where Dad made a note of Steve. And he said, "Dad, you should write down your memoirs." And indeed, he has. A great note which says, "When I look at you, I want to see pride in my eyes." Now, what's interesting about this note is on the bottom is a parenthetical, "I'm looking in the mirror."
Whoa.
Do something positive and constructive every day. Build up a treasury of upwardness in yourself and to others. Build up yourself, build up your family, build up your relatives, build up your friends, build up every casual acquaintance. And Dad answered the question for us of who is Frank Klimowski, because he wrote it down. Who is Frank K? If you shouted it out loud, you'd get an echo, but not a rebuttal.
wanted to check to see if there's any other people who would like to share at this time. Okay, in that case, I think we're ready for the next part of the program, which is a musical reflection, I can only imagine.
Only imagine what it will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine when that day comes and I find myself standing in the sun. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever worship you. I can only imagine, yeah. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in all of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to speak at all? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. I can only imagine when all I would do is forever worship you. I can only imagine.
Let us pray. Oh God, you are the maker of all that is, of this wonderful world and all that is in it. And everything that we have comes as a gift from you. We thank you, gracious God, for sharing Frank's life with us. for the love and care he shared with his family and friends, for the service he offered his country in World War II, for his successful career, his work ethic, the satisfaction he found in his work, for the joy he found in nature and the outdoors, for his sense of humor, for his spirit of grit and perseverance and individualism, for all that Frank has given us to make us what we are, for that of Frank which lives and grows in each of us, and for his life that in your love will never end. We give you thanks. We now entrust Frank into your arms, O God, knowing that in your presence there is no more weeping, no more pain, but only the fullness of peace and joy and light eternal. As we go from here, keep Frank's memory burning brightly in each of us. Remind us of the lessons he taught us and the gifts he gave us. And keep us always in your grace, now and forever.